If you weren't one of the lucky few who managed to get a peek at the Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay demo at E3 or Gamescom, you probably figured it would be a long while before you got to see the game in action. Well, CD Projekt Red shocked us all and dropped the full 48-minute demo via Twitch. And we can finally take a closer look at the Polish studio's highly anticipated RPG.
Cyberpunk 2077, a narrative-driven, open-world RPG set in a dark version of the future.
First things first, character creation. Similar to the way character creation worked in the Mass Effect series with Commander Shepard, you can customize V in a number of ways, including gender, appearance, and backstory. You'll get to choose V's childhood hero, key life events, and his or her reason for being in Night City. It remains to be seen how these choices will affect your character's story down the line, but it's an interesting way to add another layer of customization outside of just what V will look like. Of course, there's also your character's stats to consider, and the one that grabbed our attention is the mysterious Cool stat. For those familiar with the original Cyberpunk tabletop RPG, you'll know that the Cool stat is kind of similar to your typical Charisma stat, and affects how other characters perceive you within the game world. If we had to guess, this stat might also have something to do with the street cred mechanic, which seems to be one of the more unique and significant aspects of CD Projekt Red's vision of the world of Cyberpunk. In terms of combat, inhalers like the reflex booster used in the trailer's opening shootout have the potential to really make the game feel more like an RPG than your typical FPS. They add a level of strategy similar to the way potions worked in The Witcher 3. And like potions, there will likely be a mechanic that prevents you from spamming inhalers throughout your missions. In The Witcher 3, this took the form of toxicity. Take too many potions in close succession, and you could potentially overdose and die. We love the idea of using certain inhalers for specific situations, but there has to be a way to ensure that players aren't relying on them too much.
Jesus Christ! My legs!
We also got our first look at V's apartment, and there's plenty of interesting elements to unpack. For starters, V's armory is looking pretty barren, but we can kind of fill in the blanks. The most obvious is the two katana holders, and given how awesome the Mantis blades look in combat, we're looking forward to seeing more melee weapons in action. To the left of the katana holders are two large weapon holders. Our money's on the top weapon being some sort of long-range rifle, and the bottom weapon looking like some sort of grenade launcher. But by far, the weapon slot that really has our attention is at the bottom right of V's empty wall. If you take a look at V's pistol on her desk, or even the other pistol slot to the left for scale, the giant hand cannon slot is simply massive, and we can't wait to get our hands on whatever fits in there. There are other details in the apartment, like your closet and the interactive window, but considering the game seems to be about moving up in the world of Night City, we can see apartment upgrades being a part of the reward system. Again, having a big penthouse instead of a small apartment could potentially play into the street cred mechanic, but that remains to be seen. Another big part of this trailer was our first look at the Ripper Doc's office and how upgrades work.
Need to bump up my specs and get a grip.
It's a fascinating system that brilliantly intertwines gameplay elements with the game's world and lore, but considering this demo takes place early on in the game, it's safe to say we haven't even scratched the surface of how deep this mechanic goes. One interesting detail that wasn't fully explained was the humanity cost associated with each upgrade. Maybe there's some sort of penalty that comes with equipping too many upgrades at the same time? That would certainly help with balancing issues, as you'd have to choose wisely and only equip the upgrades that work with whatever playstyle you're going for, as opposed to loading yourself up with as many upgrades as possible.
Ought to work like a charm.
Hey guys, Ricky here. I was so excited to see the gameplay demo for Cyberpunk 2077, and there was so much to unpack that we actually made a video about it on Mojo Plays, our gaming channel. Jess and I reacted and responded to some of your comments, so you guys can go check it out right now. Alright, back to the video. Later in the demo, we get our first introduction to the Maelstrom Gang.
Have a whiff.
We think it's safe to assume that they didn't really pay attention to the humanity cost of their upgrades, and look how that ended up.
Whew, not the smoothest of deals, but it worked out in the end, right?
Cyberpunk 2077 seems to be one of the most exciting RPGs we've seen in years, and we can't wait to find out more. Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.